think that directly after Adam and Eve, humanity probably should have been wiped out.
But if he did that, then nobody gets to go to paradise, and nobody gets to experience perfect joy, and nobody gets to experience God.
Nobody would have ever had to experience infinite torment either.
So this is what you're telling me. You're telling me because you don't choose God, I should have to not exist.
But why is it just that since you want to go to your heaven, to send everyone else to hell?
You don't have to go to hell. That's the difference. You're saying I should cease to exist so you don't have to go to hell. We're saying everybody come to heaven if you want to. Do you want to come to heaven? I got an invitation right for you. Yeah, hello, how are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
I am 24.
All right, what's up?
So first I wanted to ask, why are you Christian in the first place?
I had a Christophany.
You had a Christophany. Can you explain what that means?
It's an experience with Christ.
And what was that experience?
I got about like 3 videos on it on my YouTube if you want to go through my whole testimony, just because I get asked so much.
Gotcha. Frankly, I think Christianity is cruel, and I have a few reasons why.
Or cruel?
Yes.
Which one?
One is the...
Did you say cool or cruel?
Cruel, like mean.
Okay. First of all, based off what?
Based off personal experience.
But like, what's your standard of what is like cruel and what is not cruel?
Okay, gotcha. So we're asking the question of how do you define good and evil?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're going to come in and say something's like bad, I want to know what your definition of bad is.
Yeah, well, I think that it's anything that directly harms someone.
Okay, why is harming someone bad?
Harming someone is bad because most people, we can agree that pain is not something fun to enjoy.
Yeah, something can be not fun and still be a good thing. Like push-ups aren't generally fun, but it's a good thing.
It's genuinely just like you shouldn't harm people because society looks down upon it.
So it's like an ad populum kind of argument. So like whatever the popular vote is the correct thing to do. So like there was a time that the society thought like genocide was good for the Jews in like Germany. Was that a good thing?
No, but that was actively harming people.
Right. So why is harm bad?
Directly because you're taking away someone's opportunity at living life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You're affecting that.
Yeah. So what?
I don't genuinely. I just feel like people can agree that harm is bad.
Yeah,
I don't know
that's just an intuition pump, right? And most like throughout history, people wouldn't have agreed with that. That's a modern day concept. Like throughout history, it was more like pride and shame. Harm wasn't really an issue. They had no issue harming people if they thought it was, invoking their pride.
Okay, so how would you define why harm is bad?
I'd say harm is bad is because we're the image bearers of God, and we should not move ourselves further from God, and we should be closer to Him. And by doing something that is evil, you're removing from your state of being. Removing from your state of being is removing from your closeness of God.
Okay, sorry, that was a lot in one sentence there. Do you think that it's okay to give people false hope who are like dying from terminal illnesses by prayers that don't help?
Well, so there's a presupposition there that it's false, that it doesn't help. But no, actually, even if it was like false, even if it was a lie, it'd still be better because they've done studies where people who have hope fight longer than those that don't.
But those can still end in people who are terminally ill and eventually die.
Sure. That doesn't change what I said.
To what degree of a Christian are you? Or would you...
What do you mean, what degree of a Christian are you? Are
like,
there degrees?
How would you classify your belief? No, that's not what I mean.
What do you mean by like what spectrum?
Like what type of Christian are you in terms of...
The best kind. Pick your favorite type of Christian, that's me.
Okay. Like in terms of, are you like a more conservative Christian, Southern Baptist Christian, non-denominational Christian?
I don't share my denomination because I want people to know me by my fruits, not try to pigeonhole me.
Okay. Do you believe that people wrestle with principalities and demons over actual psychological illnesses?
I believe both are true. I believe there's psychological illnesses, and I also believe there's demonic oppression and possession.
Do you think that the idea of deliverance from any form of like psychological distress is something that the church should be doing for people then?
Yes, but I also think they should be seeking active medical help. This is what we call common grace.
Why is it that you
don't have to pick one or the other. You can do both.
So you do believe that there is a form of external consciousness that is malevolent, that is trying to torment humanity?
I think it's the more likely thing than that there isn't. Oh, torment.
That there
Sorry, I
is,
misunderstood you. So you're talking about like Satan.
yeah, the whole concept of Satan and temptations, and do you actually believe in external
I don't think
beings?
Satan's immaterial.
You don't think he's in a material?
Immaterial.
Immaterial. Do you think it's just for a parent who knows that their child is walking out into the street where an oncoming car is going towards them? Do you think it's just for the parent to let them get hit by the car?
No.
Right. We would say that would be like a negligent parent.
Yep.
So, why is it that in terms of Christianity, an all knowing and all powerful God would let their creation, with their own free will, walk directly into a form of danger?
Because it's not a child walking in front of a car. It's a full grown adult who has reason and rationality. Just like how if I have a child who ends up being a full grown adult and they decide to live a life doing drugs, it's not my place to tie them in the basement and stop them from doing that.
If it threatens their eternal well being, though, don't you say you should step in and say something or do something in order to pull them out
God
of the
literally
way?
did with Jesus Christ.
Oh, right, but that's not something that's directly in their life.
Yes, it is.
That's not something that they directly have seen themselves.
Yes, they did.
When we're talking about people who are choosing by Christian standards to walk into hell or to go to hell themselves because they don't choose God, they weren't there to see a lot of people in this generation, for example.
Nobody goes to hell for
crucifixion of
ignorance.
Jesus.
Everybody gets an opportunity. First Peter, he gave the gospel to people who were in hell.
How could a just God?
How could a just God literally give you the easiest way out of hell? I don't know. It's crazy.
That's not what I'm asking. I
Literally,
know that there's
literally he just says, come to heaven. And people are like, nah. And you're like, that's not fair.
but that's not all it is, because
Literally
part of the
is.
religion is that you're supposed to die to yourself and pick up your cross and come and follow me.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, stay away from
don't be a dick. Like when it says die to yourself, pick up your cross, it's already the Judeo-Christian values you wish everybody held. Don't be a dick. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love God with all your heart. You can sum up the entire law that Jesus gave to that sentence. Don't be a jerk.
Right, but there's aspects of sin that directly affect, that are direct characteristics of some people's core identities. That
like serial killers, because like the data has shown that serial killers are born with brains that make them serial killers, and there's nothing they can do to really change that except for like actively choose to fight against it and die to themselves. Are you referring to those people specifically?
No, I'm more or less.
Okay, so people who are like active, like in criminal activity, who have like chemical imbalances on their brains, those ones who it's not their choice, but for some reason they're born with these innate desires to do these terrible things.
That's not what I'm talking about specifically.
So you're not talking about people who are born specifically outside of their own choice to commit evil acts?
No, they're okay. I understand you're bringing up the point of people who are predisposed to commit evil acts, which
just because you're predisposed to something doesn't mean you should be doing it.
Okay. One, thank you for the conversation.
No problem.
God, give me a run for my money here. That's for sure.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to do that.
No, you're all good. Where would you stand with on the basis of sexuality within the church, and how? And I don't know. In my opinion, it feels wrong to make someone a certain way that goes directly against the teachings of God within the Christian religion.
I don't understand the question. Make someone a certain way that goes against, like serial killers?
No, not like serial killers.
But I use
I'm more or less bringing up.
I know what you're talking about, but I'm saying I use serial killers as the example. Just because you're made a certain way, so to speak, that you have this innate desire, doesn't mean you should be acting out upon it.
Even if the whole concept of identity repression causes tons of issues for people.
I'm not saying people should repress their identity. I think they should recognize it and understand it.
Or, repressing their sexuality.
Yeah, I don't think they should repress it. I don't think they should act out on it. Those are two different things. And I actually don't think there's enough data to say it's harmful.
There's not enough data to say that it's directly harmful.
I think there's some studies towards it, but I think a lot of the studies nowadays are really biased because they come from places that are trying to prove a point rather than looking at the data and seeing where it goes. And I also don't think it's been studied long enough to really say one way or the other. So I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm not saying it isn't, but I'm just saying I don't think that they should just, that's not who I am, and shove it down. I think they should recognize it, understand it's sinful, and choose not to act on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, back to the concept of
just like people who choose to be celibate for the sake of the Lord.
Right. So back to the conversation of heaven and hell. I know that Christians specifically say that people choose hell; they don't choose heaven.
Correct.
Right. That's one of the things that I've heard in the church before. Why is it that God, who said specifically that that hell was never meant for humans, is letting people go to hell, even though it was never meant for them?
Because it's meant for Satan, and those people choose Satan.
Well, the whole concept of not choosing God means that you choose Satan. It's the join or die mentality.
Yeah, I don't deny that.
Why is there not something in the middle where people are able to, say, well, I'm not with you, but I'm not with you? Because
that's requesting that God sustain and maintain all things for you, but yet at the same time you reject him. That's like saying, hey, husband, I'm going to divorce you, but I'm still going to live in your house and you're still going to take care of me.
It's just directly confusing to me why there needs to be such a level of devotion in order to get the golden ticket.
Well, it's not a level of devotion. It's literally just recognizing who he is. He's king. He's your Lord.
Well, yeah, but it's not just that, because the Bible says that there's going to be Christians that call upon Jesus and he's going to say, I never knew you, depart from me.
Yeah, because they didn't recognize him as king.
But someone could devote their life to Christ and still probably not get in if they're not living a life.
Yeah, if they're not committing their life to Jesus as king, like it's literally, right, so it's literally not hard.
It's not just acknowledging. It's not just acknowledging.
No, it's not. It's not acknowledging that he is king. It's committing your life to him being your king, which means that when he says, "Feed the homeless," feed the homeless. When he says that, visit the prisoners. If they're hungry, feed them. If they're cold, clothe them. Pretty much just says, do basic charity. Don't be a dick to people and forgive people. Are you against doing those things?
No, I'm not against doing those things.
Okay, so that's all you got to do. Be nice to people, do basic charity, and accept Christ as king, and you get to heaven.
Right, but it also looks down upon human sexuality in the Bible.
Right, so you want your cake and eat it too.
Huh?
You want your cake and eat it too. You want to be God. You want to make the decisions of all the things in your life. Decide everything you want to do. And then when he lets you do that and it ends up leading to your own destruction, you're like, how dare you? Like that's the reason people are in hell is because they don't want what God has offered. They want to live their own life. So God says, go ahead, but it'll never fulfill them like God will fulfill them because you're designed to be with God.
Why keep the creation going in the first place after it fell from grace?
For the sake of the creation.
But God had no problem wiping out the people, the Nephilim and the creation besides Noah and his family. Yeah,
because it said that they found that they were in a perpetual state of being evil. We're not in that perpetual state. Instead, he examined the hearts of all people and found nothing but evil. Right? So he says in Sodom and Gomorrah, he says to Abram that he would spare Sodom and Gomorrah for all but 5 righteous people. How do you know he's not sparing the whole planet now for all but 5 righteous people?
I don't know.
Right.
But it's confusing to me that whenever, even if there was righteous people, I feel like it would be more moral for humanity to just get rid of them and not have their bloodline reproduce in the first place, because then no one would ever have to contemplate worrying about whether or not they were going to go to eternal heaven or eternal hell based on the way they live their life.
So you think God should just wipe everybody out?
I think that directly after Adam and Eve, humanity probably should have been wiped out.
Okay, so do you have an issue with when God commanded the genocide of the Canaanites?
I'm not familiar with that part, so I wouldn't have a particular stance. I'd just say that genuinely, I'd say that genocide is bad.
Okay, so if you think it's bad that he did that, why? Because you're just saying he should wipe everybody out because they're evil. But then if he wipes people out because they're evil, it's bad.
Well, I'm thinking of the definition of genocide directly being correlated to a form of ethnicity. So I think that whenever it's directly related to ethnicity or
Well, you didn't wipe them out because they were a certain ethnic group. It's because they were evil.
right, then that wouldn't be genocide.
Most people classify it as genocide. I just assumed you did too. That's my mistake.
So
So yeah, you think God should just all wipe us out, so none of us have to choose whether we go to heaven or hell?
well, I think that directly after Adam and Eve, that should have been the best choice because we already messed up then, and we shouldn't have people.
But if he did that, then nobody gets to go to paradise, and nobody gets to experience perfect joy, and nobody gets to experience
Nobody would
God.
have ever had to experience infinite torment either.
So you want to throw the baby out with the bathwater? You're saying, so this is what you're telling me. You're telling me because you don't choose God, I should have to not exist.
Well, frankly,
But are you saying that or no?
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that because there's a ton of people who don't choose God. If the Judeo-Christian God is the true God,
But
right?
how's that fair to me? How's that fair? Why do I have to cease to exist because you guys don't choose God?
Because ceasing to exist in the first place isn't eternal torment.
I'd rather go to hell than cease to exist.
Really?
That's my personal view. Absolutely, 100%. Because at least it's still something.
Oh no, absolutely not. I would much prefer to just cease from all
Yeah, fine. That's your viewpoint. That's your choice. Sure, I get that. But again, why is it that I have to experience what would be my version of hell because you guys refuse to choose God? Why is that fair?
I feel like in this case, I could ask you the same thing.
How does that follow? You have the choice. You can choose God. You're choosing not to.
But why is it just that since you want to go to your heaven, to send everyone else to hell?
You don't have to go to hell. That's the difference. You're saying I should cease to exist so you don't have to go to hell. We're saying everybody come to heaven if you want to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But if you want to, come. Do you want to come to heaven? I got an invitation right for you.
I'd prefer not to live forever.
I mean, you get to be a new creation. You don't experience time like you experience it now.
Yeah, no,
You're not
I
going to
would
be in suffering.
I don't want to be suffering forever, but I definitely don't want to live forever.
Why not? If you're in a different state of mind where you don't even experience time, what difference does it make?
Am I going to have a heart and lungs that beat?
I don't know what you'll look like as a new creation. I assume so.
Because I think that there's already so much suffering in this world and in the physical body that sure, this is supposed to be the creation, but sometimes living feels like a curse.
It's not going to be like that. That's the point. That the reason this feels like a curse is because you're not supposed to be like this. You're not supposed to have this body. This body is corrupt and destroyed, and it wants to, and you want to be away from it because you're not supposed to be like this. You're supposed to be with God. That's why it feels like a curse, because it literally is a curse.
That's an interesting way of looking at it.
But accept Jesus Christ. Don't be a dick to people. You can come to heaven, and you don't have to experience that anymore.
It's so that concept though is just so hard to believe in. That the whole idea of Jesus is hard to believe in. The idea that the single man experienced the human experience as a divine being. I don't feel like that's true because he never had to contemplate his existence in one way or the other.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
Jesus never was afraid of death.
Neither am I, because I have Christ Jesus.
Right, but you had to contemplate it in the first place.
Yeah, but I contemplated it before I had Christ Jesus. When I had him, the fear is gone. I don't fear death because I have life in him.
But part of the mortal experience is you have to eventually find some form of faith to hold on to or cling to.
Great. It's kind of weird how humans were built to have faith, eh? Be a very strange mechanism for evolution to give us if there was no divine being to cling to.
Well, really, that is the point of death. At a certain point, you have to have something to believe in. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're living in constant fear.
I know atheists aren't afraid of death.
You know atheists aren't afraid of death?
I know atheists who are not afraid of death, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. Yes. That's the thing, is if you have a belief, but you still have to have a belief, even if that belief is
fair point.
No God.
That's a fair point. Yeah, sure.
And for the most part, I'm not even atheist. I'm agnostic. I just don't believe. I don't believe in the Christian God.
Why not?
It's hard for me to say that it's just to have a place of eternal suffering for a temporary sin.
And you think it's more just to force people to be with him when they don't want to be with him?
Yeah.
That to me is wild. Because if we said that without anybody else, like let's say my wife wants to leave me and I force her to stay with me, I tie her up and lock her in my house, you'd all call me a monster.
Well, yeah, if you're actively physically harming her.
No, I'm not harming her. I treat her great. I walk in, feed her pudding, favorite pudding every night. She doesn't like me because my nose is too crooked. She wants out.
It just feels, it sounds unjust. I don't know. I know people say that the whole concept of heaven and hell is the absence of God in the first place.
Yeah. What do you think hell is?
I've been taught that it consists of darkness and fire.
Yeah, so that's what's the word I'm looking for? Apocalyptic literature to explain the type of suffering that'll be. It's not literal. What hell is, from the eternal conscious torment point of view, is you're actually in the presence of God, just like everybody else. The difference is you reject him. You don't want him. So therefore, it's his presence that causes the suffering, because you reject his presence, and he is the fire. If you look all throughout Scripture, he's always referenced as the fire. So either you embrace the fire, and it's eternal bliss, eternal joy, and it's being with God, or you reject the fire, and it becomes your torture because you don't want it. You don't desire it. You desire to be your own God. So therefore, being in God's presence is what causes you the suffering.
So you don't believe that it's an external place from heaven?
So there's Sheol. It's an external place from heaven. It's a place of holding. When you get thrown into the lake of fire, right? That's where hell will be destroyed, in the lake of fire. That's when everybody goes. You're either in the presence of God and his fire will consume you, or your fire will embrace you. One of the two things.
But it's in that case, it's the same place. It's just a different perspective.
There's a good video. I wouldn't say it's a one-to-one comparison. Are you aware of C.S. Lewis?
Yes.
So there's this book he wrote called The Great Divorce that pretty much describes, like, from my understanding, what hell would be like, and I think the best understanding for it. And there's a video that people have made about it. And in this video, this is not what it's going to be like, but it's just a good representation. In this video, there's people walking around, suffering, looking for their own desires. Like, for example, there's a woman, all she wants is her own son. She's looking for her son, looking for her son, looking for her son. This guy comes up to her and says, your son is with God. And she's like, well, just give me my son. And he's like, well, no, your son is with God. And all you have to do is turn to God. He's right here. And all you got to do is look for him. But the only thing she desired was her son. She held her son to a higher standard than God. And because of that, she just walked around aimlessly, never being able to see God, even though he was right in front of him. She was right in front of her, sorry. And that was her suffering, was this eternal looking for something that she put to a higher esteem than God actually was. And God was just there, and all she had to do was just look.
So it's not actual burning and fire and
no
physical pain. It's more of an emotional torment by these standards.
It's your own torment, right? For example, if you give in to your own anxieties and depressions and despair, and you think about nothing about the future and the past and seeking your own things in life, there's a good verse in the Gospel of Matthew says, don't worry about tomorrow because the Lord will provide it. Well, we all know that if all you do is worry about tomorrow, it leads to your own hell. If all you do is worry about your own past, it leads to your own hell. If all you do is seek out the materialistic things in this world, you'll get them, sure, and then eventually you realize it doesn't fulfill you. It's like Joe Rogan once said, and I'm not a big fan of Joe Rogan, but he had a good point with this. He said that he finally got enough money, the FU money that he was always looking for, and he laid down on the bottom of his floor next to his pool table, and he just thought to himself, is this it? I finally did it, got what I wanted. Nothing's ever going to fulfill you like God is supposed to fulfill you. And so if that's all you ever seek, it's going to cause your own destruction.
Sorry, I had one more question that I was going to ask.
No, you're good.
Oh my God, it's on the tip of my tongue right now.
You wanted to ask, how can I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior? And I would tell you exactly how to do that.
It's not what I wanted to ask. I know that. I know that. My background was I was Mormon, and then I went and became Christian. And then I went and became a Pentecostal Christian and eventually left.
See, that's what you did. You just went through the worst Christianities. No wonder you left. I would have left if I joined Pentecostal Christians. If I was a Mormon, I'd be long gone.
I can't think of it. I can't think of it right now.
You're all good. If you think about it again, I do these lives 3 times a week. So,
Well, what was your name?
John,
John. All right. Nice to meet you. Thank you
nice to
for the
meet you.
conversation.
No problem.
It was
God bless you, and good luck on
time.
your journey. And if you have more questions, please don't hesitate.
Thank you. Thank you. I will, maybe we'll chat later.